All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Tell the Truth, episode 8. Off the bye week here with CJ, DG, yours truly, man. We here ready to get it going. We got a Monday night football matchup of most people's number one and number two teams in the league. The Eagles leading the NFC at 8-1. The Chiefs leading the AFC at 7-2, all by them lonesome. Got a great Super Bowl rematch on docket, man. How you guys feeling, CJ, DG? How you guys feeling?
That's the one everybody been waiting on, huh?
All right. A
No better
matchup,
time
everybody.
on real grass this time, allegedly. No fake
Hey,
grass.
I looked it up. It's
You sure?
natural, fresh Bermuda grass.
From where? Where is it coming from?
I think it's Kentucky, if I'm
Kentucky?
not
All right.
mistaken.
You know, they said we have, Sodfather may have been on our side, allegedly.
Only the best. Only the best.
Allegedly, DG, you got to say it.
So
what
we,
they
we
told
got
me.
Bermuda grass from Kentucky.
That's a hell of a sentence right there.
I don't even know. I made that up.
Bermuda and Kentucky. Wowzers.
I love
Kentucky bluegrass, Bermuda grass, it all the same grass.
Still saying but yeah, so again, Super Bowl rematch, love to see it. Number one, number two teams as far as their respective conferences. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch the two teams go out. But first, a little bit of a recap of the week because talked about that winning on a bye week that we got down there on the banner. The Chiefs found a way to somehow just continue their momentum in the AFC because of what happened in a wild weekend around the NFL. Obviously, we saw the Ravens drop a game, a very close game. Well, we should also say 6 walk-off field goals, most of all time in a single week.
That's
Insane
crazy.
week of football. But yes, Ravens dropped a game. Obviously, the Texans were able to go on the road, beat the Bengals as well. Bills lost their Monday Night Football game to the Broncos. So yeah, man, things around the league got a little bit hectic to say the least. But yeah, it's been an interesting last 48 hours as people trying to adjust to that to say the least. But now we move into actual Chiefs game week as we have to go into Philadelphia. CJ, anything that stood out to you as far as the slate of games that we got a chance to watch, as we were on our bye week?
All of them were competitive. Like you said, they all were very close games as expected. The Bengals were coming into their game banged up with some injuries, and the Texans took advantage of it. And C.J. Stroud just continued to show out, man. He's already been one of the best quarterbacks in the league this year, and he just went on the road and, like you said, got one of the best wins, if not arguably the biggest win of the season we've seen so far. To go in there with all the injuries they've had on both sides of the ball, to turn the ball over in the last minute, and then figure out a way to drive down the field literally right after that drive and win the game. Can't say enough about what CJ and D'Amico Ryans have done with that football team. But more so, not the most shocking moment to me was definitely like the Ravens. Like they dominated that football game from literally 3.5, 3 3/4, and then literally that last minute turnover, that pick six that they got off Newsom, and then he ran in the end zone. That changed everything for them. And Cleveland was able to find out a way to get down the field, and like you said, a whole bunch of game-winning field goals this past weekend as an NFL record, which is crazy. But to see those two things transpire the way they did, I mean, most of us had the Texans covering the spread, so I'm not shocked as much by that one. But the way that the Ravens lost, that's definitely disappointing. Being at home, they were in control of that game, and they've been kind of known for like having bad losses. I thought they kind of got rid of that little kind of stigma or stereotype, but then it reared its ugly head again. So that was definitely the most shocking moment to me, seeing the Ravens lose at home in a game where they were clearly in control for sure.
What about you, DG? What stood out from you the Sunday games or the Monday Night Football game?
Yeah, that the Monday night game was drunk for sure.
Jesus, that was terrible.
That had to be the most wild game I think we've had all year.
Was it worse than that Colts Broncos game last year? Remember that was like
no. As far as because this one actually was highly exciting at the same time.
It was drunk,
too.
but kind of fun.
It was drunk, but it was funny. Like after a while, bro, I didn't even care about my parlay anymore. Like the game just just like you was just like, all right, just keep going because this is hilarious right now.
Keep going.
But that game on Monday night, man, for the Broncos. So I guess that would have probably shocked me the most for them to go into an environment like Buffalo, where it's cold, loud, and handle their business and take care of business on the road and get a big win, beating us and then beating the Bills back-to-back weeks. Very, very impressive. That defense is obviously turned over a new leaf here in the middle of the season and forcing a lot of turnovers and getting Russ and them the ball back to do some things on the offensive side of the ball. So yeah, that definitely was the most surprising to me is watching the Broncos go up there and get a big win on Monday night. But shout out to CJ Stroud and the Texans as well too. Each week they continue to keep impressing. I really didn't expect him to walk down another team for a second week in a row
In a
or
row.
whatever. But once he got the ball back, I was like, let's see if he can do it again, man. He went out and he proved it again, got him in field goal range, and they got out of Cincinnati with a big dub. So tough spot for the Bengals to be in going into this next week, especially facing the divisional opponent. Gonna be a rough game, but hopefully they can try to pull it out, kind of salvage their season, and still try to make a push for the playoffs. So
It's gonna be
that's all my
spicy.
thoughts on it. Right?
Yeah, tomorrow night is absolutely going to be spicy. I will also say the three quarterbacks that we saw, like you guys mentioned, CJ Stroud being able to walk those guys down, absolutely spectacular. Look, you're going to make mistakes, especially as a young quarterback in this league, being able to turn the page and be able to, get your team back in a winning situation. Great job by CJ. Joshua Dobbs, just being able to give the
Boy,
Vikings a win, man. Just
I
going out
still
there.
don't get. I still don't get it,
is
man.
there a most improved quarterback award? Can we give a most improved this award? We need to start on the show. We're giving out a
No
most
Jet is
improved.
out there. No Jet is out there. Still was able to get it done, and also give a shout out to somebody that I think is has to this point been criminally underrated because of how much slander he's received, and finally has come back fortunately healthy. Kyler Murray looked good. Good to see that man out there. Played very well
Little
for the
Kyler.
Cardinals. Yeah, man, he scrambled around, made a huge scramble to be able to get them a win as well. So shout out to him coming back healthy. But yeah, so we can get on into this game of the week. I think that certainly tomorrow night, Ravens Bengals is going to be viewed as certainly one of the games of the year, essentially. But as far as our game on Monday Night Football, Super Bowl rematch, I wanted to start out just kind of an overall view, and this doesn't have to be specific to the game that we're going to see on Monday night, but coming out of the bye week, obviously we know this team is very good at self scouting, is always going to make those adjustments. I wanted to start on the defensive side of the ball because obviously this has been the side of the ball that's been carrying the Chiefs. What do you want to see differently or improved upon from this already great defense, just to continue that momentum rolling? Where do you think that they can change, alter, or just get better at as far as what they're presenting right now? CJ, go ahead, start us off.
Kind of nitpicking at this point because they really haven't given up too much. Obviously, the big plays haven't been there as much this year, which is good to see. The run game was kind of a little bit of an issue a couple of weeks ago when we were playing the Broncos, but like we said, as a division opponent, they kind of know us pretty well. And when we came into the Miami week, they didn't run the ball as well as we thought they did. We held them to like 3 point yards per carry. So overall, the defense has been the only thing we come into the season. We wanted to see takeaways, and the trend has kind of continued. We have one or more takeaways every game this year. So as long as we're not giving up the big chunk plays, and that's going to be a big test this week, going against a guy like AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert will not be playing. So that's a different matchup than we saw the first time back in February. But as far as the defense, I guess you could just maybe like get more interceptions. That'd be the only thing we're just trying to nitpick as far as like we great at getting fumbles, we're great at getting sacks, getting to the quarterback, we're getting pressures. We're kind of splitting hairs at this point. Yeah, probably the only thing is just taking away the ball away when they throw it to us and we have the opportunities. But outside of that, the defense has been flawless. Like not missing tackles, getting to the quarterback, getting pressure on the quarterback. Obviously, we're getting off the field on third down, not giving up a lot of points in the red zone. So it's kind of really hard to say how this defense could get better, honestly, D-Mac. But we got to say something. So I would definitely say get our interception numbers up. That would be the one thing I would say we can improve on. Because he's not gonna put the ball in harm's way, but there will be some opportunities. He give AJ some chances because he's that good of a receiver. So if we can get one of those takeaways, continue that trend, give us a great chance to win on Monday, fellas.
Understandable. What's up? What about you, DG?
Yeah, I like I said, like CJ said, I think right now you're just nitpicking. Almost this defense up to this point has done everything you've asked them to do and more. You
Elite,
know,
elite, elite.
right. So at this point, you just kind of continue to do what you've been doing and continue to continue your growth, continue your communication. I feel like this year, and I think Trent McDuffie kind of said it in his interview with Adam Schefter, that they trust each other. They know which guy's gonna do what, who's gonna be here, and he said he can look to his left and right, and he can be able to trust that guy to do his job. So continue that growth, continue that chemistry. keep that going down the stretch, and I think it's only going to make them better. I think what CJ said, like maybe more interceptions. I would love to see Trent get his hands on a ball or two, a little bit more or whatever. But you can't ask for too many takeaways. So takeaways is what's going to help this team always win. Getting the ball back into 15's hands a lot more is going to always be a blessing for this team. So just continue to keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and look, Mo mentioned getting pressure with four, and that's certainly a part of it. Continuing to see guys like Karlaftis, guys like Mike Dana playing at a high level, want them to continue to do that alongside of Chris Jones and all the attention that he brings to the table. Two guys that I think are going to be important to watch down the stretch to see if they can really take that pass rush up to a different level, especially just adding to the rotation. I think you started to see a little bit of Trishawn Wharton kind of come on the last few weeks. I think he's played better against the run. I think that his pass rush moves have started to come back as far as juice and from the inside is concerned. I'd like to see that continue to improve. Just having another guy to rotate in, especially on the early downs, that you don't necessarily have to, have a trade off of, oh, he's only going to be defending the run. No, he can actually give you some pass rush options as well. I think will help. And, similar to how George Karlaftis really came on last year as a rookie, Felix Anduke-Uzomah obviously had a season low in snaps as far as I think it was only 4 last week, and some of that is just due to rotations and things of that nature. But he still has more juice than anybody else as far as the edge is concerned. He really is able to corner very quickly. I think that is a skill set that needs to continue to be honed. Finding snaps for him is going to be very difficult because of what I just stated. George Karlaftis is playing Mike Dan is playing very well. Obviously, we know many who's come back and played very well. Same for Chris Jones. Obviously, still playing at a high level, not necessarily as great as he was last year, but still playing at a high level. Finding those snaps is going to be difficult, but it is important that they do have a chance to have him on the field a little bit more because I do think Felix can continue to catch on as far as defense is concerned. And obviously, you guys mentioned the turnovers. Want to get your hands on the ball a little bit more often than they have. But again, when you're also taking the ball away by forcing fumbles, it's a trade off as far as that's concerned. But anytime you can take the ball away, that's the most important part, certainly. So yeah, now we transition into everybody's favorite side of the ball, offense.
Yeah.
The offensive side of the ball obviously has been much maligned to this point in the season. We've had some offensive line struggles. We've had quarterback questions. We've had serious wide receiver questions. We have Travis Kelce, in and out of the lineup, still trying to necessarily get right. Hopefully, this bye week has given them a little bit of rejuvenation. It does seem like he got a little bit of rest and relaxation out in Argentina, it appears. It appears he also had a win on the bye week, too. Shout out to Travis Kelce, man.
Shout out to Karma.
Shout out to Karma. Yeah. But yeah, so where do you guys want to see this offense improve and adjust? First and foremost, but obviously it could be a long list at this current moment in time. DG, start us off, man.
Identity, man. Find your identity. What is gonna be your identity going into the second half of the season? Can you get to the point where, like I said a couple weeks ago, simplifying things and getting things to a point where it's not so complex or whatever, and then just we've been saying it all year, man. Figuring out who's gonna be on the field, in permanent spots. Like you gotta get to the point where you just pick who you think is your best 3 or 4 guys or whatever, and putting them out there on the field to let them go make plays, and just getting this offense down to a point where it's not so complicated. I think if they can do that and find an identity, they'll be fine, especially going down the stretch. And another thing is taking care of the ball. They're third in the league in turnovers right now, which is not a pretty thing to be looking at, especially if you're planning on winning another Super Bowl. So having an emphasis of taking better care of the ball. And I think a lot of that falls on the leadership on the offensive side between 15 and 87. You got to set that presence of mind to know, to cover the points and protect the ball at all times. So if they can do that, man, I feel like the sky's the limit, and they can repeat and win this thing again. So
I completely agree, bro. Nothing really much to say that we haven't said already. hopefully this week off allowed everyone to relax, decompress and get away from football for a little bit. Like D-Mac said, Trav had a little fun overseas and listen to some songs and have everybody getting a little relaxation, get a little reset mentally more so than physically too, obviously as well. But yeah, just like you said, just I think this is the time of the year when we start getting into our more so jet and pop package because this is like halfway point last year and going. The third guy in the rotation kind of got cut out. So we saw Clyde being active in the Miami game, kind of like starting the trend of what we think is going to happen. It's going to be obviously get Jet McKinnon involved a lot more. And we kind of knew his touches weren't going to be as high coming to the first half of the year because we said it before the season in all training camp. We just want him to be healthy the second half of the year for the stretch. So I think this is the time of year where we start seeing his numbers of touches go up, Pacheco's number of touches go up. Because, like, to D-Mac's point in our last episode, the difference between the Jets game to the Dolphins game, the amount of touches Pacheco got was, like, vastly different. So you can kind of tell they're saving guys. And obviously, it's such a long season. And we only have two running backs on the roster that are obviously getting significant snaps. So if these guys are going to be your horses like they were for us last year, you have to do your due diligence and keep them fresh the rest of the year. And that rolls right into the receiver room, like DG's point. We want to see KTB use an explosive way down the field. We want to see that 3 to 4 receiver room established. And this is the time to do it, obviously with a week off. So there's no reason why we shouldn't come out with obviously, like, I expect our first script to be damn near flawless. I expect us to go in there, move the ball. When we're in tempo and we're flowing, this offense can score on anybody. We know how this goes. But we just have to, like DG said, and establish an identity. And I think we do that now, obviously, with the bye week. And we know we have these 8 games left. And if you kind of break them down, we have Philly, Buffalo, Cincinnati, and then the Chargers, obviously, that they lost this past weekend. But that's our other division opponent. And then we have, like, the 4 lesser games on, like, a grading scale. You have the Raiders twice, Packers, and Patriots. So on this back half of our schedule, we have some opportunities to play some really good football teams and play some teams that are probably not going to be as so fortunate to be in the playoffs. So we have opportunities to improve ourselves on offense. So I would love to see us run the ball more, establish an identity, like DG said, and just all the confusion with the routes, fellas, that should not be happening now. Like where do you should be, the timing, scramble rules, scramble drills, everything, that should have been cleared up this week. Meetings over the phone, in person, all that should be cleared up. So I expect a much cleaner execution, a much cleaner routine from the offense in the next coming week, especially on Monday coming off a bye for sure. You get an extra week, an extra day with it being a Monday night game. I expect the offense to come out firing on all cylinders for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the reality situation is this team has tried a lot to get this offense going. I think they came out with a certain plan to start the year, and obviously took them a few weeks to realize that that plan was not going to work out how they wanted it to. And then over time, they shifted a little bit while trying to work some more guys in. They've been up and down as far as their ability to have certain wide receivers in certain spots, how exactly they want to implement those guys. It's been all over the place. So now you've done the self scouting, you've recognized what works, you've recognized what doesn't work. Be able to consolidate. You're a team that coming into this year, coming off of last year, you were one of the best teams as far as 12 personnel is concerned. This year, you're averaging 0.15 as far as 12 personnel is concerned for EPA per play. Last year, we were at 0.14. Well, guess what? It's still working. You just have to get to it on a more consistent basis. Be able to use that to spark your run game, which has struggled to this point. That will allow you to use Noah Gray a little bit more in the offense, simplify things from a defensive perspective in which they can present, be able to get after these guys as far as that's concerned. And as far as the wide receivers, be able to go in there with a solid 3 that you feel good about and work guys in off of them. I do want to see a little bit more Rashee Rice outside to open up that slot a little bit more for Sky Moore. And at times, Kadarius Toney as we work him in. Obviously, CJ, you mentioned that they came out and said, we're kind of been saving them, which they should have been saving them. This isn't a guy that you could throw out there and throw for a whole bunch of passes to. You can't trust him. You can't trust his health, and it's okay that they've been saving him. But now you're getting down the stretch when you got to start using these guys to your effectiveness. So I want to see those 12 personnel stats with Rashee Rice out there and Justin Watson or MVS on the other side to stretch the field and be able to run some intermediate routes off of what the tight ends could do. I want to see those creative aspects of it in the consolidation of this offense to what does work and throw out the things that don't, And so that comes with self-scouting that hopefully has happened over the bye week. So now we can get a little bit into a broader predictions aspect of it for the second half. Is there anything that you guys feel in your heart of hearts you do think will happen in the second half? You can say that we're going undefeated. This player is going to step up. Um, you think that we're going to finish as the 1 seed? You think we're going to finish as a 3 seed instead? Where do you guys feel as far as predictions are concerned? Me personally, I did have a bold prediction that
Go ahead.
this team did or
Lead the way.
would have its first playoff game
Speak
on
your mind.
the road this year. Um, I still do think that is in the cards. It would be a little bit of an upset at this current moment in time. We are the favorites to obviously be the 1 seed, but I still feel that there's a chance that a team emerges. Either the Jaguars take advantage of a little bit of a lighter schedule, or the Ravens really step up and get rolling as well down the stretch here. Then that's possible. Do you guys have any predictions that you want to get off your chest?
Well, most of my predictions coming into the season are kind of almost cooked at this point. Coming into the season, I thought the first 3 seeds would be us, Cincinnati, and Buffalo, because we all knew coming into this year. Obviously, there's a lot riding in this season for all three of us. Obviously, more so Buffalo and Cincinnati because obviously Buffalo is a lot of older guys on expiring contracts. We know Stephon Diggs has been frustrated, and the Bengals have a lot of guys that are on the end of their deal. T. Higgins is the guy that does he ask for a new deal this summer and try to move on. And obviously, Travis Kelce's getting older for us. Chris Jones, the contract. So all three teams had something riding. So coming into the season, I thought the three best quarterbacks would have had three best records. But after what we've seen so far, like to D-Mac's point, it's probably going to be Baltimore. That's probably going to be the second best team in the AFC. So, and then obviously Buffalo and Cincinnati, as crazy as it sounds, because we're only in week 11. Both of those are guys on the verge of missing the playoffs. Never in my mind would I've ever thought that. Even through all the issue that Josh Allen has, all the injuries that the Bengals usually go through beginning of the year, those teams usually figure out a way to get in the playoffs and get over their hump. So for us to be in this situation right now, and those two teams staring at the playoffs started today, neither of them would not be in. That's crazy. Like to even say like Buffalo and Cincinnati not in the playoffs. So it's been a crazy year to say the least. But at this point in time, I think we are still in position for the 1 seed. But yeah, my hot take, I was saying it was going to be us, Bengals and Bills for the top three, but my take's kind of out the building now. So the Jaguars and the Ravens kind of took it over. So
You talking to me?
you talking to me?
What about you, DG? Any predictions?
No. Man, most of my predictions at this point, like I'm in the same ballpark as CJ. They're cooked. I kind of figured that the Bills and the Bengals would be at the top, kind of fighting with us for that one spot. But yeah, it looks like they might maybe be fighting for their playoff lives here in a couple weeks or whatever. Every game is going to be pretty crucial for them down the stretch. So yeah, that prediction is cooked at this point. I still believe that this team can be the 1 seed in the AFC. But I do think down the stretch here, maybe my bold take right now is that there's probably 2 more losses somewhere in this stretch. I don't know to what teams or whatever. We all know the Chiefs can go out there and play a game where they lose a game where they're not supposed to lose. And maybe that opponent is against like the Packers, or maybe the Patriots catch you on a stupid night where you're not being yourselves at this point or whatever. Even though I think that team is cooked, you should pretty much blow them out at this point.
Boy.
But I still think that there's probably 2 more losses somewhere in this schedule. So that probably would end up us finishing about 13-4. And I still think that's good enough for you to secure the 1 seed, especially with all the nasty work that the Bengals and the Bills are kind of doing right now, along with the Ravens kind of dropping some games that they probably shouldn't have dropped at this point or whatever. So still think the Chiefs finish as the 1. I'm gonna be bold and say I think the Jags get everything in order and finish as the 2 seed.
Jags at 2.
And I'll put Ravens at 3.
Oh, actually, I'll take it. I do got a bold take, fellas.
Go ahead.
The Texans make the playoffs over the Bills. I don't know how bold that is right now because people think the Texans are kind of the better thing. But a lot of people think because a rookie quarterback will fall off and the Bills will right the ship.
Still got a little spice to it. Go ahead, DJ.
I do think
Texans
I
make the
do
playoffs.
think it's either or between the Bengals and the Bills. I
You think
think
one of them fighting?
one of them. I think one of them makes it and one of them doesn't.
Okay.
So I
I
don't
got the
know which
Texans
one
getting
that
in.
is right now,
Yeah,
but
I don't know how it happens, but I think Houston finds a way to get in
right.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, as far as the playoff picture is concerned, I'll go out there and say if it is a hot take, that I don't think the Bills make it. I do think the Texans make it, and I think the Steelers and the Bengals make it as far as the wild cards are concerned. So that
See that?
I think Miami obviously wins the East, and I think the Jaguars win the South. So it's going to be a heck of an AFC playoff race. There
Man,
are
that's 3 spots, boy.
it is difficult to get in, and it's going to be scratching and clawing, especially across that AFC North for
Do the
positioning.
Browns get in, even with the Deshaun Watson news? Either y'all think they stay in, they
That I
fall
was
off?
thinking about that today
That
because
changes things.
that's tough, man.
DTR started, it's not PJ Walker. So we saw
I
what that
don't
looked like when
know,
they had him out
man.
there.
I'm sorry, Tony. We're going to I promise you.
Right.
That
Sorry.
was funny.
Hey, you know black people.
This one is on me.
No, it's funny.
No, look, the Deshaun Watson news, as far as that's concerned, I'm concerned for his long term outlook. I think that his days of possibly being a difference making quarterback that people were hoping for to come back for the Browns, I think that that's probably going to be over with.
That
Just
shit
with how
was tough.
devastating this shoulder injury is, I think the Browns still have a chance to make it, but I just look at the Steelers are continuing to find ways to win. That's just what Mike Tomlin consistently does. The Houston Texans are continuously playing very well from a quarterback perspective, and D'Amico Ryans has those guys, performing pretty darn well, especially on both sides of the ball. I think those guys will end up blocking them out, and I think the Bengals will end up making it. So I think that makes it very tough for the Browns to find a path back to the playoffs. And Chargers and Broncos, if they were in the NFC, I think they would have a chance to get in, but
For
not.
sure,
Yeah.
NFC, absolutely. The
There's too
Broncos
many
are still
good
4 and
teams.
5. People, let's calm down.
Um,
Like,
yeah, yeah, like you're gonna have to go on a serious run to get in
crazy.
there. I
They
don't think.
almost
Go
the
ahead.
Broncos would almost have to run the table.
Right.
Almost
Essentially.
like
Mhm.
Just because, like, we
both.
think.
Yeah. Go ahead. My bad.
So, like, does the 7 seed 10 and 7 or 9 and 8 get in?
I think you
I
got
think
to
the
win.
lowest. I think 10
I
and 7.
think
You got to be.
I think
you
you
gotta win 10.
I
I
don't
think you
think 9
gotta
and
win
8 gets
10
you
to
in.
get in. No,
I agree.
I think you're on the outside looking in.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I don't think 9 gets you in. I think you got to win 10, and even if you win 10, you might have to tie. Might
Exactly.
have
You
to
still may be fighting.
tiebreaker over somebody.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I don't think that either one of those teams are necessarily capable of the run necessary that would get them into the playoffs at this moment in time. Any player predictions? Do we think George Kalafdis gets to that double digit sack mark? Um, how do you think the wide receiver room? I will say I think that Sky Moore is going to outproduce Kadarius Toney. I don't think it'll be particularly close. I think that they'll use Tony a little bit more, but it won't be a significant manner. I think they will get snaps for Sky Moore in the slot. I'm convincing myself back again. I can't keep doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway because
I mean, I don't know what more else they can do. So.
I'm a sucker for fan. I
Yeah.
guess I don't know. I'm just going to keep doing it. I do think that Sky Moore is going to turn around the season to a certain degree. Any player predictions you guys want to get out there?
I agree. I think Sky Moore eventually they watch the film like us. Like, football is not a hard game. You see guys produce. Like, the talent of Rashee Rice is there. Obviously, he's a guy that has size to this receiver room that we don't have overall. So to keep him in the slot the whole rest of the season, I think would be doing him a disservice. Because it's crazy because during the preseason, we saw him run all these outside routes, but he had the drop issues, right, fellas? And then now we're saying, oh, well, since you can't catch the ball outside, we're going to keep you in the slot. I get the sentiments of what they wanted to do, but overall, like D-Max said earlier, if you're not going to use Rashee Rice outside, then I don't see how this offense can take a next step. Because clearly Sky Moore has been a productive receiver for us. Not elite by any means, but for him to be in the slot, he's had moments and had some great plays for this offense. So if you want to get the most out of him to help the room be better overall, I think you have to move Rashee Rice to the outside at times, not full time. Just give him some snaps. Like, I shouldn't see Rashee Rice in the slot a full game. I don't want to see that anymore. But if it is what it is, then so be it. Because, like, to D-Mac's point, KT's not available to play most of the snaps. We do expect to see an uptake, but to have KT play a full game at Z, that's just not going to happen. So if Sky's the only guy you really can rely on to play Z outside of Miko, then eventually you're going to have to move a guy around. So I expect the receiver room to whatever their yardage was before the first half of the season, fellas, double it in the second half. That's what I expect to see. It's not a high number, obviously, to do because you didn't really do nothing in the first half. So the receiver room total yardage will be doubled in the second half. That's my expectation or my prediction for the second half of the year. Be a lot better.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look at John asked about if Hardman's going to continue to get the returning snaps. I do expect that to happen. I mean, it doesn't seem like they have.
And Tobe like this.
It doesn't seem like they want to go to a different option, so I think it's going to continue to be Miko at this current moment in time because Richie James hasn't come off of IR.
Exactly. Can't trust KT back there. So
yeah, I mean, KT gets hurt. Sky Moore, obviously, we saw the adventures last year, so I expect it to continue to be Miko. Moving forward as far as
he's still an all-pro punt returner. He hasn't been making good decisions. I'm not going to excuse anything he's done, but Miko, he's still one of the most explosive guys in the league. You can't just take him off punt return. So
yeah. And I'll continue to say the decisions that are made are ones that are made by Dave Tobe. They're not necessarily made by individual returners because we've continued to see it no matter who the returner is. And to get better at that, as
catch it,
that's special teams adjustment. Stop returning kicks that you shouldn't be, but I know that's not going to happen. So we're going to have to deal with it for right now.
Mr. Tobe, Mr. Tobe.
Yes, Mr. Tobe. All right. Now let's get into the game specifically. You guys just start out. I will say this first and foremost. The Super Bowl, in my personal opinion, is the greatest game that Jalen Hurts has played of his career.
I thought not even close.
With his ball placement, I thought obviously he was dangerous with his leg, even despite the fumble. Obviously, I thought that he was layering throws at a high level. I thought he was diagnosing defense very well. This is a different type of challenge that they're going up against from the defensive perspective, how this defense has matured, the ability for them to change the picture, the fact that they're more versatile and flexible. Nick Bolton obviously not being there is going to be a detraction as far as that is concerned. But I do think this is a different challenge that's going to take it up another step. Can Jalen Hurts rise to that Super Bowl level? And we'll get into if he's going to have to because of this offense a little bit later on. CJ, what do you have as far as the Eagles defense? I mean, I should say, as far as the Eagles offense versus the Chiefs defense, some matchups that you're watching.
This is probably the matchup I've been the most excited about to see this year for our defense, given the fact the way we played and the way we've improved every week. And then obviously we got Charles Omenihu back. It sucks that Nick Bolton's not going to be on the field because the last time he saw his team, he made two great impact plays, multiple plays, but two really big ones that stood out. But given the fact our defense in that game were good enough to obviously to figure out a way to get stops and get off the field at the end. They moved the ball a lot in between the 20s, and Philly's a great offense. They made plays, but this is to me, in my opinion, fellas, this is a night and day defense from what they saw in February. Like it's not even close. Pressure rate is better. DB play is better. Obviously, Nick Bolton not being on the field kind of hurts, but overall, the linebackers have been 10 times better than what they were last year. Willie Gay is taking a significant step, bringing in a guy like Drew Tranquil to help you cover on those late downs. Leo Chenal's taking a step for what he has to do in his sophomore year. This defense is 10 times better than what they saw in February. So, obviously, we have a lot of respect for Philly and what they can do. Like D-Mac said, they have a lot of explosive players. A.J. Brown's going on a tear this year. Been easily – if you're talking about Offensive Player of the Year, he's in that conversation, him along with Tyreek Hill and some other guys. But Jalen Hurts is not playing the same football he was last year as well. If we want to keep it honest, like the way our offense just took a step back, their offense is taking a step back as well. He's obviously dealing with a knee injury. And we know it's injury upon any player ever. But at the same time, when you have a guy who has a knee brace on, you clearly see him lacking in explosiveness like he used to be. You can kind of scheme up some certain things and put pressure on him to make him use his legs, even though he may not want to in certain areas. So their passing game has been decent, to say the least, but not explosive as it was last year. They're giving up a lot more pressures. Lane Johnson hasn't been as clean in the pocket as he usually is. They're still running the ball at a high level. DeAndre Swift, one of the more value running backs you could have got in the offseason. He's running the ball at a high level. Jalen Hurts in their quarterback sneak is still a very hard play to stop. But I think coming into this matchup this week, fellas, Trent McDuffie, I think he takes this personally, honestly. Obviously, he gave up the big touchdown in February in the Super Bowl. I think he looks at that matchup and kind of sees a way he can kind of make his imprint on his game. We were just talking about it, getting the interceptions right, getting our hands on the ball. So I expect our defense to come out there, fly around, make some plays. And Jalen Hurts has been like uncharacteristically turning the ball over at a high rate this year, more than I expected him to do. I think he, like I said earlier, he's going to give A.J. Brown some opportunities because he just trusts his guys. So I expect our DBs to fly around, make plays, get some turnovers. But I think our defense is going to get a lot of pressure, and I think we're going to come out guns blazing this week for sure.
DG, what about you for the Chiefs offense going, or the Chiefs defense going up against the Eagles offense?
Yeah, the most exciting thing I'm excited to see is the matchup between their receivers and our DBs. At this point, I think this is a big benchmark game for Snead and McDuffie to kind of go and prove, once again why they're one of the best cornerback tandems in the league. You got a big challenge on your hands in Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. AJ Brown has been playing arguably like the best receiver in the league right now at this
Facts.
point. He's on the tear, and so I think this is a really big spot, especially for L'Jarius Sneed to kind of prove, especially with a contract year that hey, I can be that guy that you can put on the island and kind of allow me to travel with guys of the AJ Browns and of the worlds and the Justin Jeffersons of the world and stuff like that. So that's what I'm intrigued to see the most, especially on our defensive side of the ball. Also, our defensive line versus their offensive line. This is arguably probably the best offensive line you're probably going to see all year. And I think if you can get pressure, get home with four, you can obviously wreak a lot of havoc on that Philadelphia Eagles offense. They're going to be without Dallas Goddard, which I think is a real big key in this game. Kind of gives you a little bit more control over the middle of the field and what you can do as far as matchup wise. Maybe you can bracket AJ Brown a little bit more, send a little bit more attention to his side to keep him from going off. So I think Spags will have a really good plan, especially with having the week off and having time to really game plan for this game. I think they'll have a really good plan to go out there and execute, and I'm excited to see it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point. Obviously, the Eagles' offensive line is elite, no doubt about it. So being able to find that pressure and not necessarily having to blitz a lot to do so is going to be key. Certainly, when you get them on the money downs. As far as early downs is concerned, you obviously mentioned not having Dallas Goddard. That is a huge piece. That is a piece that they always are going to have a part of their 11 personnel. Taking him out of the equation means that hopefully you can give more attention to AJ, more attention to Devonta Smith because he's always a guy that steps up whenever Goddard is out of the lineup, and I expect him to try and do so accordingly. Hurts will go to him. You got to be able to pay a lot of attention to those guys. Obviously, fortunately, this team has been very good at the cornerback position versus wide receivers. They like to get physical. We'll see if they're allowed to play this week. Exactly how the officials decide to call it, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully they can continue that extra line of play, and with a little bit extra attention paid to the run game, a little bit extra attention paid to those two wide receivers who've got it out, they can get out of there with a win, or at least hold them down to a relative standard. John obviously asked about them versus AFC teams this year. They pretty much handled the Dolphins. I'll say that much. They did lose to the Jets, only scoring, I think, of 17 points versus that excellent defense. They
Hmm.
also only scored 18 points versus the Patriots in their week one matchup, in which they got 25, ultimately off of a pick six from Mac Jones. So they scored 14 versus that Jets team, by the way. So yeah, a little bit of a struggle versus some AFC defenses. Again, something schematically I want to see us be able to change that picture on a consistent basis because they're going to attack us in a multitude of ways. They're going to have answers. Changing that post snap picture that we saw struggle a little bit as far as Jalen Hurts is concerned with Jets, a little bit as far as also versus the Patriots. I want to see them be able to replicate that game plan. They've been able to do it throughout the entire year versus other quarterbacks. That is the way in which you get Jalen Hurts to turn the ball over. And look, if it goes the way of the Super Bowl, then it's one of those games where one possession is golden as far as getting you into the win column. Now let's talk about the offensive side of the ball. Um, DG, you want to lead us off as far as your offensive keys, matchups, people to watch, etc.
Yeah, I think like, once again, this is about, especially on the offensive side of the ball, this is about the trenches. How do you match up against their defensive line? Obviously, we've seen Jalen Carter. Guys like Hassan Reddick have been playing really well this year. That defensive line is always active. They're always ready to get after it and wreak havoc going on your quarterback. So, can you protect? I think the biggest thing going into this game is, can you limit the penalties? Can you have good communication on that line, especially with twists and stunts and blitzes? The Eagles are gonna send everything they can at you or whatever. And then I think this is probably one of the, and I know this this may sound a little bit cocky or whatever, but this may be one of the weakest secondaries you might see,
You're not
especially
lying.
with the way they're playing right now.
Hmm.
To me, I just think James Bradbury hasn't played up to what he's normally played up to. Um, and I think Darius Slay is still one of the best corners in the league, but obviously getting older at this point in years and age. And then I also believe they lost Avonte Maddox for the year, correct?
Hmm.
So I'm not sure who's playing in the slot for them right now or whatever. I heard Bradbury has been kind of playing in that role for a little bit. I might be wrong on that, but I think this is an opportunity for our receivers to kind of have that get right game. I think and get some continuity, especially with Pat, and really have some explosion in this offense. So I expect to see us execute well, limit the penalties, and go out there and execute our game plan at a high level.
Absolutely, CJ. What about you? What are you looking at as far as the Chiefs' offense is concerned versus this good defense?
Oh, absolutely. Like DG said, this secondary for them and their coverage overall hasn't been that great this year. We've given up a lot of big plays compared to years past. Obviously, we know last year, us and the Eagles were tied 1 and 2 for total sacks. So obviously, Philly still are doing a great job of getting pressure. They're still getting a lot of sacks on the team, but just not necessarily as efficiently as they were last year because Hassan Reddick started the year off with an injury. Brandon Graham's getting older. Obviously, Fletcher Cox been dealing with his things as well. Jordan Davis. So they've been rotating a lot of guys, and there's still a lot of depth. And they got Hargrave as well. They got from San Fran. So it's a good group. It's probably going to be like DG said, probably I thought the best D line we saw was New York. This may be the second best one that we see this year. Obviously, with the depth and the talent they have everywhere, they got guys that can beat you outside with Hassan and beat you inside as well with Jalen Carter, who sets the tone for them. So it's gonna be a big week for Trey, Creed, and Joe because whenever Pat has a clean pocket, we have a lot of opportunities to make some plays. So overall, like our offense, I would just for us, I want to see us dominate and run the football. Like get back to like we said, give Pacheco the ball, get back to the 10-1 show, give them and let them go. When they set the tone for us and they're involved in the game plan, I think it sets the tone for Trav and everything else, honestly. Because we know this receiving group is lacking in certain groups, a certain level of talent. But when you run the ball and then you get your screen game going, it settles everyone in and it calms everyone down. So in this time last year, we started running the ball at a high level, especially high efficiency at this point in time. So definitely want to see us run the football. Definitely want to see us, like DG said earlier, clean up the mistakes, no turnovers, clean games the rest of the year. That's all I want to see. When you don't turn the ball over, I think we're still top 3 or 4 right now in turnover differential as far as like the league and everybody. So when we don't turn the ball over, we're a really good football team, and we've turned the ball over a lot, like DG said. So imagine if we cut that in half or get that to a zero number the rest of the year, this team could be even better. So I want to see us run the football, get back clean pockets because, like DG said, the secondary hasn't been that good. Their linebacking core is struggling like it was last year. So I think it's going to be a great day for 87 and Trav can put his imprint on this game. But more so than often, I just want to see us establish our run game and get our running backs involved. Would that be screen game, run game, obviously maybe some swing and pop passes like we do, but just get Jet and Pop involved early and often. And I think that sets the tone for everybody else.
Yeah, I don't blame you one bit. And look, I think as far as the offense is concerned, it's kind of a little bit of those keys that we talked about as far as offensive adjustments. We would talk about obviously being able to condense the wide receivers that you put out there. You guys made the point specifically about their secondary having some struggles. They haven't been as bad as some of the total numbers would suggest as far as passing defense is concerned, because some of that is game stripped, determined. But on a per snap basis, drop back EPA, drop back success rate, they've been very middling. 16th, 17th in the league as far as that's concerned. So they can be had through the air, and that starts because of their secondary issues. They've had to rotate guys in and out. Avonte Maddox out of lineup, Darius Slay in and out of lineup, James Bradbury to possibly take a little bit of a step back. They went out and traded for Kevin Byard, obviously having a week to implement him a little bit more into the defense. We'll see what wrinkles they can try and come up with implementing him. Drafted Sidney Brown, one guy that I liked really a lot out of Syracuse, who hasn't really taken a hold. They've tried Eli Ricks all over the place as well. So it's a lot of flux as far as their secondary is concerned. But one thing that I will continue to harp on, like DG said, this defensive line for them is excellent. They've gotten great play out of Melvin Williams, a guy that's completely underrated on their defensive line. And that's in addition to guys you guys know, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. Jalen Carter is just being an absolute monster well worth the draft type that he got to go as high as he ended up going. And then we know Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat have been excellent as far as coming off the edge. So being able to be stout up front, and that includes the games because they are going to play them, those stunts and twists that they have had troubles with as far as offensive line is concerned, they have to adjust accordingly. But again, you can get after them in the middle of the field. This linebacking core is weak. You can have their way against them through the air. You just have to get to the right circumstances. Stay ahead of the chains. Don't have those negative plays. Avoid those turnovers. Simplify the offense. Be able to get into 12 personnel more. Really challenge those linebackers to guard the run and the pass, especially against these good tight ends that we have. Make sure you use all those elements accordingly, and get those wide receivers involved, man. And as Noni said, for the weapons, catch the ball when it's actually thrown to you because Mahomes has his highest on target percentage and his lowest off target percentage in his career. He is putting it on these guys. They got to make sure they make the plays when it's thrown to them. So that's what I want to see out of their Chiefs offense, certainly to say the least. You guys got your, any score predictions you guys want to throw out there for Monday Night Football, man?
Chiefs money line, DG. That's what I got.
Man, I gave a score prediction earlier on Twitter /X in the spaces. I think I said 30-27. I would like to walk back my prediction. I hate score predictions so much. I'll say something weird like 26-21. Something like that. Where, I think we put up some points, but I think this defense, our defense is able to kind of limit the explosive plays from them. They have to drive the length of the field, and maybe they just get to a point where they kind of just run out of time, and we get out of there with a victory. Hopefully, like CJ's been saying, hopefully we run the ball a lot more. I think that'll help us take some time off the clock, kind of use their game plan that I kind of know that they're going to kind of try to come in with to keep Pat off the field, kind of use that against them, and see if that helps us get away with a victory. So, but yes, I'll stick with it. 26-21. That's my final score prediction. I ain't giving no more.
I'm done.
Yeah, I'm not changing it no more.
I don't mind that one. I kind of like it. I think it's a little bit lower scoring game. I don't think you see an offensive explosion like you saw in the Super Bowl. I think it's a little bit of a nastier game. I got it about 24-23. I think the Chiefs do end up pulling this out, but it's a lower scoring game. Both of these defenses are able to slow down the offenses a little bit, but ultimately, we get another Harrison Butker kick at the buzzer to get the job done, to say the least. But yeah. So that's our thoughts, obviously, on Monday Night Football. We'll give a quick pick'em update. As of right now, CJ is in the lead at 52% win percentage. I am slightly behind him at 51%, and DG right now is at 47% as far as pick'em is concerned.
Catch up, fellas.
Yeah, we'll continue to track that throughout the rest of the season for sure, man. But yes, now for the time of the week in which we take a look around the league and see where exactly teams are stacking up as far as things are concerned. It's a wild league, especially as far as the AFC conference is concerned. We got teams all over the place, teams losing, teams dropping out. Obviously, I think that we all can kind of agree the number 1 and 2 teams were on a bye week this week. I think that they're going to be matching up on Monday Night Football. I assume that we all kind of agree. CJ, do you guys have an idea for who you think should be in that 3 spot?
Is this a San Fran spot? Have they earned that right after the way they beat Jacksonville? Or are we still?
It was a dominant win from San Francisco coming off the bye week. They felt like they got back on track. How are you feeling as far as that is concerned?
All those teams are lost.
It was a good bounce back win for them. You go on the road and you smack Jacksonville. Yeah, like the game wasn't even close from
never a game.
From the first snap. It was never a game. So
exactly.
It was very impressive to watch them go on the road and snap that 3-game losing streak, and kind of dominate a team that some people feel like are a contender. Some people may argue against that. You
They
know,
look like one on Sunday.
but I still think the Jags are a very good football team. Um, maybe just a team that just doesn't match up well with certain other teams at this point in time. But to me, it's still very impressive to watch the Niners go out there and do what we seen them do earlier in the season, which was just take it to another good team and put them in hell for 60 minutes. So
Facts.
If you're going on, so I'll say this: I would personally lean towards the Ravens just for right now, based on the entirety of the season. Obviously, not overlooking what things happen, and they've been a little bit similar in their losses as far as things are concerned. Being able to dominate for most of the game as the 49ers generally were able to, even in their losses, and just losing, the lead late. So I would go number three. But who do you guys think would be favored on a neutral site, Ravens versus Niners right now?
Niners.
Niners, yeah,
Think it would be Niners. Okay, fair
yeah,
enough.
Neutral
yeah.
side. It'd be like a slight favorite. It'd be like
Yeah,
-1, -2.
yeah.
It'd be a pick 'em, like essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing too crazy as far as that's
Yeah.
concerned. Do
Absolutely.
you guys have a preference here? I think the next two kind of I'm for me personally, I'm torn between the Lions and the Jags. I think the Jags coming off of that loss, the Lions being able to pick it up a little bit more. Both of these teams, got handled by the Ravens and the 49ers. So it's like, all right,
That's
well,
funny.
we kind of parse that out. Do you guys have a choice between the Lions and the Jaguars as far as that's concerned?
I I like the Lions. I
I
I
like the
think
Lions too.
I think the Lions are a team that especially like I know they lost some bad games to the Ravens and I'm trying to think of the other loss that they had. Can't think of who they lost to. But even with that loss to the Ravens, I think if they matched up again, that'd probably be a lot better game at that point in time. Um, I still think that offense is very very explosive. They got great weapons. That running game, I think, can travel anywhere with the
Facts.
tandem Montgomery and Gibbs. And I think Gibbs is obviously starting to really figure out his role and what they want him to actually do. And I think he's
Slasher.
he's gonna be a huge weapon for them down the stretch as well. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown has turned into arguably one of the best receivers in the game at this point in time. And Jared Goff is obviously playing well at this point in time too. With that offensive line being able to do what they do and having one of the best offensive lines in the game, I still see the Lions as one of the top teams in the league. I think they're a little bit better than the Jaguars at this point.
Scary team. Scary team.
Yeah, I don't think you want to see them for a second time if you're
I'm done.
any team in the NFC.
That's
No,
fair enough.
sir.
That that you're gonna get 48 minutes. 48 minutes. No, I
Mhm.
know, right? 48 minutes. Yeah,
48.
48 minutes. No, 60 minutes. I'm like,
60
I
years.
knew
60 minutes.
48 minutes didn't
15.
sound right. I'm like,
Too much
look, man.
basketball we're watching,
I'm
guys. We
looking
can't
at the
compete right now.
basketball parlays, man.
I'm
I'm
looking
looking
at
at
my
the
lane
NBA
60
John.
48, man.
NBA,
Yeah,
NBA.
Too much
I'm
basketball
looking
in
at
the
the
brain.
NBA John. You're getting 60 minutes of hell if you're playing the Lions because of the way that they play behind Dan Campbell. I think that Jared Goff has played very well, to, to say the least. Yes, it was very entertaining. Though.
Yes.
Very entertaining.
I
Beyond
Um,
heard
entertaining.
I heard things were broken in that space by a certain person.
Literally and
all right,
figuratively.
because, well, okay, I think we can sneak this team in and then save the 10 gold star. So I'll save myself a second here for when I want to get into. Um, because Noni tried to get me off topic, but you're gonna get a 60 minutes of hell as far as the Lions are concerned. And Jared
Yeah.
Goff is playing very good football, like you said, DG. Balanced run attack, being able to create explosive plays down the field. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a legitimate wide receiver one that you have to respect if you're a defense. So they bring a lot to the table as far as the Lions are concerned. Defense is still a little bit shaky as far as in my personal opinion, but it's still good enough to support what is a very good offense at this current moment in time. Can they get that one seed is going to be the question, because obviously that would require some Eagles losses,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but they have a light schedule. Their only big game is the Cowboys down the stretch. If they can get that one seed and have everything come through Ford Field, do a little bit
Detroit
of
and for
difficult
home field
proposition
advantage,
for
that's
guys.
a hell of a combo.
It's a little bit different when you got to go, play Jared Goff at home versus when he's on the road. So
In the comfort of his own
be
dome. That is
interesting to
true.
see if they could take advantage of that light schedule, to say the least. So as I go through this, I'm just going to kind of pencil these teams in my personal opinion, the way that I see them, and you guys can disagree as I do this. I do personally think that we can pretty safely freeze the Dolphins at number 7. I mean, they were on a bye week. Obviously, they dropped a little bit after the loss to us in Germany.
Mm.
Just gonna leave them there. 8 to me, I do think Dallas did enough to deserve that spot. Obviously destroying the Giants. I still think that they are a good team on both sides of the ball.
Mhm.
Are they a great team is going to be the question mark. But I do think that they have done enough to deserve that spot. Now, look, this is very difficult for me because there's like 7 teams that could go into this next spot. We got the Browns, we got the Seahawks, we got the Steelers, we got the Vikings, we got the Texans, we got the Bengals. I'm saving the 10 spot because I'm going to piss off a few people with who the team that I'm going to give it to. Do
Uh-oh.
you guys have a preference for that ninth spot as far as that's concerned? What of that group of teams stands out to you that deserves that spot? And to me, I know which of those teams I feel is the best, but that does not mean that they necessarily should go in that spot right now.
Yeah. If it was
Can I?
me, basing off what we've seen, I'm giving it to Houston. Go ahead, DJ.
Yeah, the Texans. I
Hmm.
mean, I've been saying this, and especially for the last couple of weeks. I don't think they're a team you want to see in the
At
playoffs like
all.
that. Not that I don't think you can't beat them or anything, because I think if they get into the playoffs, they might lose a game just off of not being as experienced as other teams. But they have nothing to lose. They're
Yep.
not supposed to be here. They have nothing to lose. They're not even supposed to be 5-4 right now. Like they're so far ahead of schedule at this point. CJ Stroud is so far ahead of schedule. Um, I just think they're a dangerous team that has nothing to lose, and if you have to face them, it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like the Lions. You're gonna get 60 minutes of hell.
Mm-hmm.
You better be ready to bring your best game against them, because if you don't, they'll beat you. You know,
Texans said we leaving here with something, like the Denzel voice mean.
right?
You're from around the way. Look, I am actually glad that you guys decided to do this, and I don't always want to go strictly based off of one stat. Certainly, there's a lot more that goes into it. I think that what DG laid out as far as the team is concerned, but amongst the group that I did name, the Texans do actually have the best point differential as of right now, or the second best, I
Bingo.
should say, point differential next to the Cleveland Browns, who obviously lost their starting quarterback. So I think that there's a
Ouch.
legitimate argument to feel best about the Houston Texans compared to the Bengals, the Vikings, the Browns, the Seahawks, or the Steelers at this current moment in time. Now, all that being said, I do think that the Bengals are a better team. But we will see how that continues to progress. And you know what? All things considered, they just lost to the Texans. So
I give it
I'm
to
not
them.
mad
That's
at
kind
the Texans
of,
over them for right now. So now I
what's
have to
up, man?
piss a few people off in Chiefs Kingdom. I'm going to give the 10th spot to the Denver Broncos.
I
The
knew
reason
you was going there.
the Broncos is because
They
they
got
played
two good
very good
wins. What you want them
football.
to do? They got two
I
They
great
can't
wins.
deny it, man. I can't
Two
they
great
deny
have
it at
wins and
all.
two
played
great
very
weeks.
good football to
Very
get
impressive.
themselves from the brink of complete collapse, trading away players as far as the trade deadline rumors were concerned. They adjusted their defense, their secondary changed a little bit. They were able to get that in line a little bit better. Their defense has played better. They obviously were able to give it to us a little bit as far as when we went to Denver, and they went to Buffalo and put it on Josh Allen and escaped out of there with the win as well. So I do want to reward them a little bit for being able to turn their season around and give them that gold star spot because I think they deserve that shout out. Sean Payton is doing a solid job. Russell Wilson has played a solid quarterback. I would be remiss if I didn't give him that shout out right now.
Yeah. I was definitely wrong about Sean Payton, and I'm man enough to admit it. He's definitely taken over that job, and I think he's done a good job of getting Russ. Um, and this is kind of what we've been talking about with the Chiefs, but getting Russ into a simple place.
Mm-hmm.
Simple plays, run the ball, take care of the ball. We'll take a few deep shots here every once in a while, but our identity right now is to line up and play smash mouth football, and and allow our defense to kind of carry us. And that defense has obviously turned the corner. Like I said, it forced 9 turnovers in I think the last 2 games or whatever. They've been playing incredible. I think they've definitely found their identity with Vance Joseph. Although I think whoever was previous coordinator before maybe a little bit better job, but I definitely think yeah, I definitely think that they're starting to pick up Van Joseph's system and getting comfortable with him calling plays for them as well. So you know, credit to the Broncos, man. Credit to the Donkeys, dog. They turned it around.
Shout out to the Donkeys. We gotta tell the
I
show
thought they
back.
were dead in the water, but
Tell C Dot when they lose, he can come on the show.
right.
Yeah.
That's crazy. We go get Steve out on the show, man. We go.
C
Yeah,
Dot coming on too. He gonna pull up on him.
Absolutely. Any thoughts as far as the Broncos are concerned, CJ?
2 great wins, man. Beat 2 of the best teams in the league and one at home, one on the road. Forced multiple turnovers both games. Can't knock that, man. They're finding ways to win games.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, I was just scrolling through the schedule. I think we all can agree. Bengals Ravens tomorrow night again. Gonna be an excellent game that everybody's gonna be tuned into. We finally get a good Thursday night game, which is nice. We got battle of 2-6-3 teams as far as Steelers Browns is concerned. Other than that, it's kind of tough Sunday schedule. Not gonna lie to you, it's not looking great. Maybe little Jets Bills action if you like to watch Zach Wilson play quarterback. I suppose.
Over under and total interceptions that game.
A lot.
Lots.
I think the primetime schedule this week is a lot better.
Yeah.
Monday, Thursday for sure.
Prime time schedule. Look, Vikings Broncos. All of a sudden, kind of a spicy game there.
A
lot to play for.
A little Pasternak versus Russell Wilson, Mr. Dangerous, Mr. Unlimited, whatever the hell his name is.
Right.
A little Kyler Murray versus CJ Stroud action. That's probably the one I'll be watching just because those guys are actually enjoyable to watch play quarterback. Do you guys have a game amongst these that you're actually going to be looking forward to watching? Non-prime time edition.
It's a rough slate.
As far as the Sunday slate, I think if Deshaun was playing in that Steelers and Browns game, I think that'd be a lot more intriguing.
Yeah.
If anything, I guess the only game you really could, because it's a division game, Titans and Jags.
Maybe the Raiders and Dolphins.
Yeah.
I mean, could kind
Dolphins
of be
coming off a bye. Yeah.
Dolphins coming off a bye. Could they fall asleep at the wheel and give Raiders a game? Raiders are kind of still in the playoff hunt a little bit.
How many people are going to pick the Jets to win this week and then watch Josh Allen go crazy and do something wild this week?
Yeah.
And look like a normal Josh Allen.
Well, look, it has to be said, the Jets do have the Bills' number, and a lot of these.
That's exactly my point, D-Mac.
They have given them a lot of problems, so it'll be interesting to see, especially like you said, divisional games that sometimes happens.
Yeah, exactly. You got it.
Speaking of divisional games, who can't wait to see the Giants and Commanders?
Oh God.
Jesus. What's the spread? What's the spread on that game?
Take the under.
Oh man, we got Washington minus 6.5. When's the last time you saw a 4-6 team be a 9-point favorite?
Take the Giants.
Disgusting. Take the Giants to cover.
God almighty.
Giants to cover.
They ain't that bad. Jesus.
I will say there's a sneaky game here. Seahawks Rams. I don't know Stafford's status.
Another division game.
I think he's on the mend. That could be a little bit of a sneaky.
Oh, yeah, if he plays, absolutely. Yeah, Stafford.
That could be a little bit of a sneaky game that you can watch if Stafford ends up playing.
Does Carson Wentz start if Matt Stafford can't go?
I forgot they.
I don't want the answer to that question. I don't.
I saw him. I didn't see him in practice this week. That'll be hilarious.
I don't even want to have the answer to that question.
Oh God, my bad.
That scares me. Because then Carson Wentz is going to have a good game, like we randomly saw Baker Mayfield have a good game with Sean McVay, and then we're going to be like, Carson Wentz is back, and then that's not
Sean McVay, baby.
That's not good for everybody. Yeah. So look, we appreciate y'all for coming by. We'll get those power rankings out to you guys. Please do stay tuned. Make sure you guys check us out. We will have Kingdom Cast tomorrow night on the channel as well. I will be hosting my Red Friday space at DMAC Wake 316 on Friday as well, previewing And yeah, stay tuned. We'll be right back here next week for Eagles Chiefs review and going into and week 12 game, man. Oh man. Thanksgiving's next week, dog. Thanksgiving
Yes.
is next
Flying
week.
by. We
It's
Yeah.
got the Swifties pulling up here, bro. It's about to be crazy in this.
oh man.
The
Y'all,
Swifties outside, bro. I heard the whole Swiftie clan pulling
I
up, bro.
mean,
Taylor whole family coming, bro. About to be
The
lit.
ESPN,
family is meeting the family.
y'all gotta
Ooh,
understand there is going to be an ABC broadcast of the main broadcast. No, there's going to be ESPN broadcast of the main broadcast. There's going to be the ESPN2 of the Manning brothers doing
the
their thing,
main
and then on
cast.
ABC there's just going to be an ISO shot of the actual Taylor Swift booth and the
Whole
Kelsey
time, whole
family
game,
in
whole
said
game,
booth together watching the game. It won't show the actual game. It's just going to be an ISO shot of them two
full
at
game.
the game on Monday.
Probably mixed in with a little bit of Brittany Mahomes.
You know, and she'll be right there next to him. That's what I'm
Just
saying.
a
It'll be a
tad.
Full game,
cameo. It'll be
full
a
game.
cameo
Just a
appearance.
tad.
Just every once in a while, she'll
Little
pop out and
appearance
be like,
here,
"Hey
you know.
guys."
It's all love,
Just a
though.
little tad.
Oh, I can't wait for it. But yes, we'll be back to review that game, which will be an excellent game between the number one seed in the AFC, number one seed in the NFC, Philadelphia Eagles versus your Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl rematch. I cannot wait for it on Monday Night Football. Thank you guys again for coming by. Shout out to everybody that commented in the chat. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Peace out.
Peace.